you want to forfeit?
Yeah, yeah.
You are a son of a bitch.
Un saluto a
Hey,
tutti.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the AJC. It is May 22nd. I am joined by Lex and Aziz. How are you two doing today?
We're doing great. Happy to be back. Thank you, guys.
There you go. It's been too long, my friend. Lex, it hasn't been long at all. Finally getting
No,
you back now that
for
the
sure.
schedule clears up, which is nice. And
Yes, I'm happy to be back.
yeah, as always, no shortage of things to talk about when it comes with Juventus. All right. So today we were expecting the point penalty. Now we're saying it's going to be held up for the game today, which is against Empoli. All right. We're going to tackle everything. Yesterday was a wacky day. It's been a wacky couple of days. Max Allegri's words in response to Wojciech Szczesny in his press conference ahead of the game today. We're going to talk about that. We've got Caressa, who is a friend of Max Allegri, and a wild chase that he sent Juventini on yesterday through some headlines, some false headlines. So then we'll get into that. Some player discussions, coaching discussions, Giuntoli, everything. We're going to tackle it all. The game today is we're going to tackle the game as well on the back side of things. Usually we like to get into the games at the start, but ultimately we're starting to get this feeling, and I think everybody's in the same, that these games aren't going to technically matter, and the reason we're getting the points delayed is they're going to wait for the result. And even if we were to get a point penalty and work our way out, we're quite confident UEFA is going to step in anyways and see us out of European play one way or another. So we take it in stride, we see what it is, and then move from there. We're going to take a quick couple seconds here and say what's up to everybody in the live chat. Let's see what's going on in here in the comments. I used to think nobody is above the law, but the Italian sports justice seems to do whatever it likes. This is mafia style justice. Surely Juve should fight back hard. Supporters should protest. Yeah, there's not a whole lot outside of going to Tar. Tar is essentially the last resort, so it can. We'll wait to see what happens there. But yeah, unbelievable. Joe Cappuccino joining us. Respectfully, fuck the FIGC. Okay, yeah. I like how you threw respectfully in there. Keep it classy there, Joe Cappuccino. Let's go to Apex here. Let's beat Empoli today to secure second place, 14 points behind Napoli. Can't wait for the season to be over. Forza Juve. Yeah, this season has been a wild ride. And we still got Joe Cappuccino pumped for Lex and Aziz making his long-awaited return. All right, but sporting one hell of a jacket on your return here. Look at that beauty, all right? And Alex P throwing out the day to FIGC. So let's kick things off. Where do we kick things off? I guess the points. Aziz, you feel the same way as I, that it doesn't ultimately, like these games or whatnot, they were always waiting to kind of see and figure out what was going to happen and manipulate times and structures and hearings and whatnot to ultimately get us to this point where we would maybe try and put a little more pressure through that to get Juventus to accept a plea deal. We kind of felt that way, or UEFA was always good, waiting in the background to step in anyways, even if we could play our way out. It makes this season feel like all for naught. How do you feel about it all?
Yeah, firstly, of course, it feels bad, to have that penalty, that pressure being targeted, from all of those organizations. But for me, I also don't like how we're trying to display this as just Juve being innocent and this organization just doing something from nothing. And I think for me, the best thing would be to take accountability because Juve is on this position. For me, because they put themselves there, they knew they were doing something shady, even though like, we can maybe all agree that it's not really a crime what they did with Plus Valenza and everything. But you can understand even from the voice recordings and everything that they knew that they were doing something shady and risky, and that there was a risk to that. So yeah, it's very sad that they put themselves in that position, and the best course of action would be to try to learn from that and not put themselves in that position again, because now that's the only thing that can be done. But other than that, yeah, it just sucks. But all the unity stuff and we're against everyone and everything, for me, it's not really it. We just need to be better and take accountability, because, as I said, it's not something that just came up out of nowhere. It's just a situation that Juve puts themselves in, partially at least.
Yeah, see, and this is the thing though, and I think again, if you open it up and you will see very, very similar deals. This is where I tend to kind of start to see if we look at other deals, and the main thing is that they're just targeting Juventus because of the wiretaps and the so-called orchestration or whatnot. But the deals, and even deals that saw two clubs make gains and whatnot, is not something new. And that's why I'm looking at the whole thing like we are fully being targeted. However, for me, I'm more baffled at how long Agnelli allowed things to go on if they had a suspicion that they were being watched or what. Like usually you know something's up or whatever, and if you have these feelings, and even based on the conversations that were tapped, where you can hear a guy like Cherubini clearly express his concerns about Paratici and the way he was operating, you need to shut that down. Like, for me, it blows me away Agnelli allowed that to just continue on despite what Cherubini was saying. That's wild to me. So the mismanagement goes on further. The whole nuts and bolts of the case and everything like that, like you said, we know it truly didn't break any actual rules or violations, but what I said these past couple of weeks is it sucks for Agnelli, who did so much good. The last bit was just a horror show for him. We gotta hope we can get out of here minimal damage and see what happens. But Lex, what are your thoughts on the whole thing? Does it make you feel like all this battling and whatnot, should they be looking towards? Do you want to see them look towards that plea deal?
It's hard to say. I mean, I think I do. I think that just this whole situation is frustrating to be in. I can't imagine as the players and the team, just because you're playing, you're gaining points, you're winning, just for it to possibly be taken away from you, and it makes the whole like point of winning and gaining points in the standings almost arbitrary for you as a player. So I think that also not knowing your future, like whether or not we're going to be in Europe next season, those all have implications for the mercato, how much we make financially and everything. So I think that may be a good idea to look into that. I don't know. It's just a situation overall is difficult right now for the players and for the club and for the fans too, for everyone.
Yeah. Now Mark's got a question saying, what is the actual point of deducting points when all they want is for Juve to be out of European competitions? They can just disqualify us from European competitions. This is stupid. The thing is that, and this is why I get back to targeting and really going after Juventus and whatnot, and just historically, the point of getting deducted points, there are multiple cases that Juve faces. Now, the law as we've come to know this season and see this season is all over the place in Italy in terms of the process and how they act, how they maneuver. They would in no way, shape, or form not hesitate to use. Basically, getting points deducted from Juve at this point becomes almost like setting a precedence in terms of the next case down the line. And there are still multiple cases down the line, because there is the salary maneuvers case, and then there is also the alliance case, like with the teams that are allotted that Juve was orchestrating and whatnot, this private business almost with these other clubs involved. So they still face those. So the point of the points for the prosecution is to establish that precedence, which would still just ultimately give them more leverage in getting Juventus to accept some type of plea deal, which would essentially just admit guilt from Juve. So yeah, we've been hearing for a long time now that Elkin was fighting this thing full way through. However, over the past week, starting to get more rumblings about Juventus looking at the plea deal option. So who really knows? But that's my feeling in terms of why they're still going on with this point thing and not just immediately just saying, okay, you're banned from European play. It's totally because they would use that to their defense. So it's gonna be a long one. It's gonna be a long one, I think, for us. We're gonna have to buckle up and strap those seatbelts on and see what happens. Now, keeping with the news, man. So I think the next one we should start with is Allegri's press conference, because then it'll tie into Caressa, because we all saw what happened yesterday, that little bit of a shit show there and run around. But it really started with after the Sevilla defeat, because then you have a couple players that were questioning, and actually, you know what? It's a long night. I just got back from the lake, so take it easy on me, okay? Take it easy. I drove in from the lake super late so that we could run this show, and I'm going to be doing a watch along. So relax, take it easy. Now, Allegri. Cuadrado spoke before the game against Sevilla, okay? Talking more to, approach and everything like that. After the match, Szczesny comes out and says that he was not happy with how we played after going up a goal. I didn't think much to it. We're all feeling that way, right? Max goes into his press conference. He says, Cuadrado was only joking. Was he? Okay, awful joke. No, wasn't joking. And then continues to say that it's what Szczesny said. We need to not always speak when we're hot like that, because it can be easily misinterpreted. I don't know what he said. Maybe it was just because he doesn't know Italian very well. What? So, number one, I don't have a problem with what Szczesny said. And I put that out on a tweet and everything. And someone rebutted with me saying that, no, you shouldn't say things like that. You should keep it to yourself, whatnot. And I said, no, absolutely not. He didn't target his coach. He simply said he did not like what the team did after going up by a goal. There is nothing wrong with that. For me, it's the exact same thing Max said in his post-game, saying we need to be better in the attack. We all saw the opportunities that we squandered in that game, so we know exactly what moments he's talking about and what players he's referring to. So if it's okay for Max to generalize in that statement, I have absolutely no problem with Szczesny saying what he said. And the only reason Max took such offense to it is because he knows he's responsible for it. So for me, it's bullshit. It's bullshit. He's losing the plot, everybody. Okay? He's lost the plot for me. And I think he's feeling the heat, and it's running his toll. Asked about his future, I am 100% staying. People flipped out about that. It is because he is under contract to 2025. He didn't say any lies. Yeah, he's staying. He's contracted. He's not going to walk away from that contract. The only way he leaves is if the club does something, and he essentially was saying that through there. But let's get to Max Allegri's conference or his comments on Szczesny. Lex, why don't you kick us off first, and then we'll get to Aziz. I'm sure Aziz got some stuff to say about Max.
Yes, he's been waiting. He's been waiting to come on here to talk about Max. But as for the comments about Tech, I was just shocked. I thought that was a really surprising thing to say. I agree with you, Berto. I thought that Tech was totally in the right and completely valid for him to say that. I mean, we were all thinking it. He didn't call him out. He didn't say, Mr. Allegri makes us hold back. Why did he make us hold back after we conceded? He didn't come out and say that. He just simply made a comment as to the play style. And I totally agree. I think the reaction that Allegri had basically sold himself out because basically admitted being guilty to being kind of in control or behind those directions, because as soon as Tech made those comments, he immediately assumed it was about him. And it was like, he actually didn't mention you. So I thought that was interesting, as you said. And I thought it was just like strange that he mentioned, oh, maybe he doesn't speak Italian very well. Like that, just such a really strange, or Quadrado was joking, like some very strange comments. Like you said, he's like losing the plot a little bit. But yeah, I totally agreed with Tech, and I thought he was completely in the right to say that.
Yeah. Aziz, let's hear it.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, I agree. So first, like what Chesney said, it wasn't only about the game, but he also said something about not winning trophies for 2 years and it being unacceptable. I think that also maybe offended the winner Allegri a bit, you know. So so yeah, like that's the thing for me with Allegri. Like he really lacks accountability. So it's okay, you know, to make mistakes. It's okay to, especially for Chesney, to stay on topic. Like I don't think that he said anything wrong in terms of the defending or staying and holding back too much after scoring. That was totally right for me. And he mentioned about how he had to save a lot of shots. That was a fact. It wasn't an opinion or anything. That was something factual, and there was nothing wrong with it. And then, of course, the second comment with the titles. I don't think there is anyone who can disagree with that. We saw Sari getting sacked because he won only one trophy, or Pirlo because he didn't win the Scudetto. So it should be the same for Allegri. And yeah, like it's really annoying, especially such a comment that he doesn't speak Italian really well. I think it was a bit maybe disrespectful. And we saw also like there is clip after when the team arriving in Empoli and with Allegri walking in front of Chesney and Chesney looking a bit, you know, pissed with Allegri, not looking at him, avoiding him, something like that. So
Yeah.
that shows all of the tension that's going on. And that's something on the coach to, if you have squad, for example, that doesn't like to defend, it's up to you to adapt and make them at least enjoy the game and feel at ease and play to their characteristics and all of that. So yeah, that's really the thing for me with Allegri is that his total refusal to change or to improve or to maybe try a new idea sometime, but always been very defensive to what he likes to do.
Yeah, there are mixed feelings on this players thing. So in terms of like what I've been saying the past week is now that you get late into a season that's had so much turmoil and everything, you start to, pay attention now. And if players are going to break, so to speak, and start saying things like this that maybe give us a little bit more of an insight to what's going on behind closed doors, now's the time to kind of see that, and it's going to come through. Some fans have said that the players need to shut their mouths and get the job done on the pitch, which they also haven't done for most of the season. So they say the players need to worry about their performances and not coming out and speaking to that. And to be honest, I think there's there's times where that can be true, because I think there's a fine line there, and it's kind of a tough one when you start to think about that and when players are out of line and when they aren't. And it's one of those things. It's very, very difficult from looking at it at a management standpoint. If your employees, if your team loses faith in you and whatnot, but are they losing faith in you rightfully? And that's why I can't help but stress that without an actual management team at Juventus right now, who is actually assessing the situation? Who's actually keeping tabs between players and management and staff? There is nobody there. There is nobody there. The board right now, even Elka and whatnot, anyone that wants to say anything about this group, they are not the football minds. Okay? So a lot of people couldn't figure out what Nedved's role was or anything like that, whatnot. He was essentially, his job was to be there in between all the stages. He was supposed to be between the players and the coaching staff and the training staff, between the training staff and the upper management and the board and whatnot. He was supposed to be that guy. Okay, that's what a role like that's supposed to do. Right now, without that, it's hard to just look from the outside in. A lot of us will feel, based on the play, based on Max's track record, his approach to games, what he does with players, a lot of players not evolving, that it's him. And the players are right to just come out and start to be against it or whatnot. To be honest, for me, it's going to come down to, like I've been saying for a while, what the bigger players are doing. Because Juventus is at a stage right now where if our core guys, the guys we need to build and mold the future with, start to come out against it, then you have a problem. Then you have a problem. Because even if we say these guys are being prima donnas, okay, even if you want to say that, it is still a man management role is still attached to you as a coach. So even if we're going to say they're prima donnas, when it starts to become multiple and guys that don't really have a history, Wojciech Szczesny, I don't even hear him talk during a game. So for him to come out and start to say, you know, some frustrations with the approach and the game and the plan, and we want to win trophies, and at Juve you need to win trophies, that's a big eye-opener for me. Because this guy is far, far from one of those vocal guys that will come out and do that. So that's kind of my thoughts on it. How do you two react when you start to hear some fans say that the players need to keep their mouth shut and focus on the games and whatnot? Why don't we get Aziz to start here, and then we'll go to Lex?
Yeah, I think a lot of people forget that these players are also humans. They are not robots. And a big part of why a lot of these players play football or dreamed even of playing football is firstly because they enjoy it. They enjoy getting on the field, playing some good football, scoring goals, all of that, And if as a team you have to suffer every single game, I mean, it's understandable if you have maybe to defend and suffer against big teams, for example, against Napoli, you have to go through it to get the points. Okay, that makes total sense. But if you have to go every single game, you have to defend for 90 minutes and play nothing, and like there is no enjoyment to it. Like, of course, you're gonna be tired of it. Your morale is gonna be down. Even you as player, if you don't score, you don't assist for a lot of games, especially our offensive players, Chiesa, Vlahovic, all of those guys, and you see, like, because of that style, now they have less and less opportunities, and those opportunities have higher and higher stakes. So you're even building a lot of pressure on them. So, for example, if Haaland gets 5 chances a game, he misses 3, and he scores 2, that's it. It's a good game for him. But if Vlahovic gets two chances a game, he misses both, and that's it. Vlahovic is a flop. He needs to do better. All of that. So yeah, it's really tough on the players, I think. Of course, we can't bear all the responsibility on the coach. Sometimes they mess up, sometimes they have to do better. But if you look at the big picture on all the games, like for me, it's 100% on the coach,
Yeah.
especially with those players that we see elsewhere. Even Di Maria, you have Di Maria who hasn't scored or assisted in 14 games now, player of that caliber. Before he was doing some individual stuff and scoring though sometimes, and now he also is not doing anything anymore. Chiesa, Vlahovic, they can't all be, lazy or bad or they just shut down. It has to do with the coach because, as you said, first you have to give a plan to these players to play, and first that plan also can be bad. So you can have your plan, you have to do this and that, but it's not the plan for these players for this team. So yeah, maybe Allegri would do good on another team with the 2015 squad where you have BBC and players who can defend for 5 consecutive games without conceding. But with a specific squad, I think we need something different.
Yeah, which is fair. Lex, what are your thoughts on the whole? Are the players out of line or whatnot, or how do you feel when people say maybe the players need to just focus on their performances and not speak out?
I think I always lean towards supporting the players. I think that especially when vets like Tech and Quadrado come out and are speaking publicly in the press conferences, I think that's extremely eye opening. As you mentioned, Al, it's like you hardly hear Tech speak in goal. So for him to speak out about this must have been something that really frustrated him in the game. And I think that it's easier said than done to say to the players, okay, just go out and do your job. I think that Aziz touched on some great points about that, about like how the psychological game for the players is impacted and by the system, by how you're playing. And if you notice, he drew upon Vlahovic, Chiesa, Di Maria, often all of our attackers, right? So I think that's interesting to note too, is that when we see the players that maybe look more frustrated, either in their body language, when they're coming off the field, when they're on the bench, always tends to point towards our attackers, anyone in the attack. And I think that also is just an indication of the struggle, the high stakes that comes with creating minimal chances, the high stakes with how we play and pressure that puts on them. I think that as a player, naturally, you're going to grow frustrated and start to doubt yourself, start to doubt your own abilities because maybe you feel that it feels like you can't play. So I think that even as a player myself, and sometimes being stuck in a particular system like this, sometimes you feel like you don't even know how to play the sport anymore, or you don't have those abilities that you thought you had. And I think that just comes from the fact that the game is a team sport, right? It's like a puzzle. All the pieces have to be working and fitting together in order for it to run smoothly and for it to work. So I think that the players having these doubts in their minds and getting impacted by this just plays a role overall. So, say maybe there is a one off game where we do create more chances than we normally do. I think that they might be more prone to error, more prone to missing them, anyways, because your confidence is low, because your mental focus is low, because of the situation that's been surrounding the team overall. So, I think that's kind of important to remember too, is that those games where it feels like we did create a lot of chances and it's like, okay, they're missing them though. So, you know what I mean? I think that still has lasting, residual effects from just the season overall and from how we play overall on the players. So I think that's why maybe we see them not execute like we'd like them to in those moments.
You know, you can maybe attest to this too, Lex, since you're currently playing at a good competitive level. But I remember, there are games when it's just tough. The other team has got the majority of play, and you're not able to really enforce your game offensively. And I remember, um, you know, us as players, if we got into that moment and we missed a critical chance in a game like that, you felt so hard done by because you knew it was going to be tough to get another one like that if the other team is just outplaying you. And I feel like, for the most part, that could be what's going on in our players' minds for the most part, is because we know with a lack of generating enough, you don't know when that next one's coming, and you're looking at a guy like Vlahovic too. His just attempts per game just dwindled and faded away like tremendously. And yeah, it could easily get into your head, and it start to make you feel like, man, am I going to get another one this game? Am I going to get subbed off and not get another opportunity in this game? Like, it plays into it. Like, where has that affected you in certain matches? And have you felt that way?
Absolutely, absolutely. Having played in a system that plays similarly defensive style, it's difficult. It's so difficult, especially as an attacker. And I think also when you're asked to do more defensive load when maybe that's not your forte, especially even in those situations too, you just become put under more pressure, and that makes you more prone to error, more prone to mistakes, and it's just not enjoyable overall. Which, as I liked what Aziz pointed out earlier about how at the end of the day, that's why this sport is played and why the players play it, I think, is to ultimately, because you enjoy it. At the bottom of everything, it's because you enjoy playing. So I think when you don't have that there, and that joy and that love for the sport's not being nurtured because of that situation, it becomes very difficult. And but yeah, I've been in that situation many times, and it's difficult as a player.
Yeah, one of the things, and even just taking it away from, because you don't always have to apply it to football. You can apply things to life as well. And I mean, think about being in a workplace, okay? Think about being in a workplace and going into work. If you don't have a belief, okay, if you don't have a belief in what your boss, owner, whatever, is trying to accomplish or how they're trying to go through it, are you going to be at your best performance? And this is why I say listen to what the players say, especially now towards the end of the year as it's coming to the end, because this is where some of that starts to come out and we can start to see. But just apply it to real life. I mean, I can honestly say, and I've got a good work experience behind me, but I think if we look at certain jobs we've had and whatever, and you could think of some bosses you've had that you're like, I'm not behind this guy whatsoever. It happens. It's normal. In sports world, happens a lot. There's still a lot that just fail to believe that that's even the case, and that people are making too much out of the comments and what came from it. I'm going to switch things now. I want to change this direction just in talking more about this. I brought this question up, and it almost kind of froze some people, and I'm curious to hear what the live chat thinks about this, and I'm very curious to hear Aziz and Lex here. How would you feel if the club came out with a little more honesty? Like, what if the club came out and said this? How would you feel? Like, for instance, if they were to say, you know what? We're tied financially to Max, and we are planning for worst case scenario with the outside circumstances of the cases and whatnot. It's going to be too difficult to find, a target that we want to do or even make changes during this duress. We're going to see where everything stands with these outside circumstances before taking action that has financial implications. Like, say, getting rid of Max, which is going to cost you a lot of money, and then finding another manager, which, depending on who they want, this is why I've been saying all along, people that are talking about these high-priced managers, I can't see it. I can't see us going from Max to another high-priced manager. But how would you feel if the club came out and opened up to it and just said, like, hey, we're waiting before we do anything that's going to have financial implications while we are assessing everybody and everyone at Juventus. However, we're waiting for this to finalize before making any moves? Would you have more respect for them? Would you understand them hanging on and potentially, because some of these outside circumstances, these cases could go into next year. Would you have more of an understanding and more of a respect for them if they said that? Aziz.
Yes, I would say thank you, grazie, merci, because that's really something like it's really a mess right now at the club. Even the communication is so bad. If you look at the social media, for example, yesterday, right after the Allegri conference and Szczesny comments, they post a video with Perin and Pinsolio, and Szczesny is not on the video. And if you look at the replies and everything, people were obviously pissed about that, you know. So yeah, I think the communication, as you said, to be more direct, more open, maybe to give a clearer picture to the fans. That would be, from me, really appreciated, even though I would disagree with the point that you need to wait for all of this to make a decision about Allegri, because for me, him staying would cost more than firing him, etc. But as I said, I would appreciate the honesty and the directness.
Yeah. Lex, how would you feel about that?
I think I would appreciate more clarity as well from the club. However, I think there is a fine line, which I've seen some of the comments you brought up have been kind of drawing
Yeah.
upon that idea. Because there's also the point where, say, the club did come out and say that basically the only reason that they're maintaining Allegri in his position is because of the financial situation, because they can't get out of his contract, or maybe because of the points deduction, they want someone that's going to stay, whatever the situation, the reason is. Does that, like, how would that make you feel as a fan and as a player? Like, I feel like he would just become like a sitting duck at that point. I think it would also kind of undermine whatever amount of credibility he had left. I think if they just came out and said, yeah, this is honestly the only reason why we're keeping him on the bench. So I think that may also backfire, but I do think that it would be nice to still see some more honesty and clear communication from the club, because it's such a tumultuous time right now within the club. So it would be nice to kind of gain an understanding of where upper management is at, where the team is at. But I do still think that there's maybe a line where there can be too much honesty and then the fans know too much. And then I think you can undermine certain individuals, working for him within the club.
Yeah. There's a lot of rumblings about, you know, other coaches and Juve making contacts and whatnot, and not just like recently, throughout this season. So it's really, really interesting. But there are great points, and Lex touched on some in the comments here. It can be a recipe for disaster if the club was to come out here with clear honesty and clarity, because what does that send the message to your players? You know, that, hey, we can't get rid of this guy, so you're going to have to deal with him or whatnot. Well, some may not, and some may just say, we want out. That is a potential. But also, you kind of really put Max in a spot. So if you're tied to this guy on a contract and you come out and say, hey, we're riding things out with the cases before we make any actual moves that are going to affect the finances heavily. Again, you haven't necessarily named him per se, but you're just more speaking to the overall project and everything, that we're going to try and work, minimally. And I think fans would, for the most part, respect that clarity and that honesty and whatnot, and maybe be a little more forgiving. Because I think the biggest thing now is, and this dates back to October of this season, fans couldn't understand why they didn't just cut ties at that time, because you could have justifiably got rid of him at that moment. That's how bad things were at that point in time. So there's another theory, which was that the reason Max was compensated so well, and the reason he's, for the most part, handled the penalty thing, whatnot, so good, is that they knew this was coming down the pipeline and chose Max, and maybe even expressed, hey, shit's going to hit the fan. We need a guy that can come in and, handle that, whatever, and maybe get something. Because this is always been one of Max's claims, is that he can get the most out of whoever you give him. Somewhere along the lines, it changed, and towards the end of his tenure, everybody said, well, you got to give him good players. But everybody that backed Max for so long was always saying he could do whatever with whoever you gave him, and then all of a sudden it shifted. No, he needs these guys. And there are still some saying now, and I see it in the daily comments to my videos every day, give Max the right group of guys. Well, I don't want to be that guy, but if you're waiting for Max to get the second coming of the Galacticos at Juventus, don't hold your breath, because we know it's going to be a small mercado here. It ain't happening. So if he can't, in 2 years, progress the club we have and the players we have, it's not drastically changing next year. And it's going to probably be more young guys coming in and us working through this period until we clean up the numbers. Just saying.
Yeah, agreed. Even if you look at the 2015 lineup, most of those guys, at least, like Vidal, Marquisio, Ecksteiner, they were brought to Juve as they were unknown or like normal players, and they were improved and became world-class players with Conte, and then of course with Allegri when he came in and everything. But there is that process of improvement, and developing players is necessary, whether it's under Allegri or anyone else. It's always gonna be necessary at club like Juve.
Yeah.
I think Al brought this up last podcast. You said players used to make their name at Juve, and I think that was pretty much exactly what Aziz was trying to get at, and something that we should get back to.
Yeah. For me, it starts at the top. And I've been very vocal about this for a couple of weeks. It starts at the top. We need a sporting director. We need a management team. And we need to start there. You can't have a coach assessing himself and his own performance. It's not going to work. You need to have an actual management team in place. That's where Juve needs to go. Now, yesterday, in terms of this too, with all this Allegri, Caressa sent us on a wild goose chase, okay? He made claims that he was going to break news on Juve's future, and we had a sensational return to Juventus. That's how he hooked everybody, okay? Fantastic hook, by the way, because everybody's mind goes to ADP immediately, Zizou. So great hook, Caressa, but you pissed us all off. Okay? So ultimately, essentially, it was nothing. A reiteration, okay, regurgitation, a recycling of the same news we had heard for a while. Giuntoli, a possibility. Otherwise, Juve is going to look within with Giovanni Manna, okay, as potential sporting director. That is not anything new. But in terms of the Giuntoli thing, for me, it started to feel like Caressa was essentially just backing his buddy, Max, in just trying to protect and save face almost in what he was saying about, oh, Max has no problems with Giuntoli coming in, when the main headlines around this whole thing are that Max does not want Giuntoli, and he was upset that management had made an offer, okay, a 5-year term for Giuntoli without letting Allegri know. Okay, so for me, it just felt like one of Allegri's buddies hooking everybody in and then trying to clear the air on Max's side on behalf of Max. That's what it felt like to me. Were you guys getting the same vibes, Lex, Aziz?
Yeah, obviously, like Caressa is friend of Allegri. I even tweeted that on Juve canal as well, even though I try to stay neutral as well. But it had to be made clear. But yeah, it's actually sad, that desperation to send your friend on TV to defend you and say this and that. But that shows also that the pressure is getting there, and that those news about Allegri not wanting the new sporting director actually have lots of truth to them, and they're not just rumors.
Yeah. Lex felt that way?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I did. Yeah.
Now, for my friend Calcio with Reno Gattuso over here, Max knows if Giuntoli comes out, Allegri is gone and whatnot. Here's the interesting thing. Giuntoli actually wanted Allegri at Napoli. So even all that is kind of strange. But right now, I don't know. The whole thing feels weird. Almost like a big power struggle. And like Max wants power and wants control or whatever. But to his defense, maybe, just maybe, Max actually just like wants it so badly, wants to be the guy that digs them out of here, but I just don't see it happening. And the biggest thing we have to keep tabs on are the players, okay? The latest is Dusan Vlahovic has said that Chelsea wants to come in with an 80 million euro offer. First off, no discounts for anybody, okay? Juve doesn't have to sell. We've got the guy locked down till 2026. So, if they want to come in and purchase him, then step up. The Prem has overpaid for garbage for years now. So, hey, make the price minimum 110. Otherwise, see you later. There's the door. Don't let it hit you on the ass on the way out. No discounts. Are we on the same page, Lex, Aziz? No discounts.
Yeah, obviously.
Absolutely. Zero discounts. But Vlahovic turning in potentially a transfer request would be another sign for Juve that we have to change our methods, change our business, and change how we do things. It goes beyond a coach for me. You got to start getting personalities, players, and whatnot that are going to be tied and locked in and whatnot. And then where the coach comes in, for me, it's up to him to get the most out of that talent. So it's multiple parts. It's not just all on the coach, but you got to have guys that are tied in and whatnot. I am with you, Sweaty. I would like to keep Dusan. However, let's wait to see what the circumstance hold. And ultimately, if a player turns in a request, he's not tied to you guys, and it's just not there for whatever reasons. However, if they do want to make a change, maybe that changes his mind. So we have to wait and see. Going back to Manna as a potential sporting director, taking him away from Juve Next Gen, where he's done a great job. Listen, somebody said, Lou and I were talking about it in team chat, he said, I'm kind of intrigued by that one. I don't think it's fair to Manna right now, and I don't think it's fair to the Juventus fans or to the Juventus club right now to not find an experienced sporting director during this time, okay? If we were established, if we had a well-oiled machine and we were doing good business and we were in rhythm, I would say, you know what? Let's give the guy a shot. Right now, you need somebody who has had legit success somewhere, who has good experience, that can actually take this on, because this is a beast of a situation Juventus is in. It is not fair to put that to him. That is my opinion. Do you two agree? Not fair for Manna at this moment in time? And for me, it's got to be somebody with experience for the moment we're in. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I agree. I think it also was one of the main problems that started this whole downfall. First with Marotta, so you Marotta leaves, then you promote Paratici, then you replace Paratici with no one, then Paratici leaves, you promote Cherubini, and you replace Cherubini with no one, and then they are going to do the same mistake, which would be really annoying because it would show once again that they are not learning from those mistakes. So yeah, I agree absolutely. We need maybe an external guy with experience that has clear vision that's coming to implement that vision from the start with the coach, with the players, with the scouting system, all of that. And that should be the starting point to any project, really.
Yeah. Lex, agree?
Totally agree. Yeah, totally agree. You need someone to come in with an idea, with a plan, and to create a project that the players will want to buy into. I think that's what's so important when we talk about trying to keep players at the club, especially this discussion surrounding Vlahovic and some of our core and star players. I think that bringing in someone who's experienced with a clear plan, clear vision, and creates a project for these players that they will want to buy into, I think that's what will keep them happy. And that's how you can build a squad from that. So I think
Yeah.
that that's what's been missing, as we mentioned, for a while. We've kind of just been recycling, this kind of reused project and adding a couple pieces, then losing them. And it's kind of been makeshift in the process. So I think we need something fresh, new project, and that starts at the top.
Yeah. And that the biggest thing is fresh. Fresh ideas, new minds outside the organization to come in. Okay? Come in and assess and take a look at everything. Now, him being Mark brings up a point that he would be a 1 year stopgap until Giuntoli was available or whatnot. But even as a 1 year stopgap, interrupting his work where he is at now, where he's doing a good job and whatnot, is still like it's a tough spot. It's a really, really tough spot. We're probably not doing a lot of business as it is this summer, so it's an interesting spot to be in. Maybe as a stopgap for 1 year if they said that, and then he heads back where he's at. Potentially, but this is just it. There's a lot of question marks around Juve right now, and you got to think too, are we chasing Giuntoli too hard? Like, you need a sporting director as soon as possible. And, if you can't break him, if he can't break free of that contract, like maybe De Laurentiis isn't going to release unless he's got a good option. Okay. And maybe he says, you know what? I'm going to spend this season coming up finding the right guy, so I'm not scrambling this summer or whatnot. Like, who knows what's actually going on there, because it could easily be both ways. Like, I would think, why would ADL want to hang on to a guy that wants to go to Juve and is using, like, he's not going to get into a contract negotiation with a guy that's using Juventus as the potential target to leave. So for me, it comes down to ADL just wanting to cover his bases and have somebody in place that he's comfortable with. And if he doesn't have that, I don't think he has a problem keeping him from joining Juventus, in which he knows Giuntoli will help Juventus. So that's kind of how my mind sees that. Lex, how does your mind weigh out this Giuntoli situation?
Yeah, I think that's completely true. I think like De Laurentiis too has a habit of wanting to keep guys from Juve, not wanting to negotiate with Juve. So I think that that's definitely could play a role into things. I just asked the question too, like, is there anyone else available? Like, is it just Giuntoli? Like, can we find someone else? What's the market like for sporting directors right now?
Yeah, and that's just it. I mean, there was a great one earlier on in the season in Campos that ended up getting picked up and whatnot. So outside of that, I don't really know. I don't pay a lot of attention to the director market, but
Neither do I.
we'll see. But Aziz, how do you weigh out the Giuntoli situation?
Yeah, I agree. And from what Sky said yesterday, he's the only option Juve is looking at. So that's kind of, again, foolish from
Yeah,
Juve to have only one option. And especially, as you said, he is tied to that contract with Napoli, and they can easily decide to not let him free out of that contract. So yeah, we should probably look at other names. I'm not familiar with any. Maybe
yeah.
no, not Mota. Like tired of the comebacks. Only Fitzpirlo.
I
But
will say this too, like in terms of number one, Sky Sport I don't know about when it comes to the credibility and stuff. The Di Marzio thing I found funny because he hasn't been right about Juve for so long, and he came out and said flat out, what was it, Friday? I think it was Friday or Saturday. Came out and said Giuntoli is leaving Napoli and coming to Juventus for less than 24 hours to do a complete U-turn into just the same news that we were hearing, where Di Marzio then said they've offered him a contract. They're just waiting for him to break the contract. It's like, what are you doing? So again, these are the times we're in. Silly season. Just remain patient. But in terms of Giuntoli and whatnot, that's how I see it from ADL's standpoint. We will see what happens. Juve's got a lot of work to do. Even in the coaching front, if we're going to make a coaching change. Even looking at it from a sporting director, this is a tough position for somebody to come in. It's already a pressure cooker when you join Juventus because the expectations are so high. But now, I think even all these names we throw out at coaching and whatnot, maybe, just maybe, does that desirable location of Juventus, has it been affected, in your opinions?
Yeah, I think the one thing, the one good thing that Allegri did as of now is that he set the standard a bit low for the next coach. So if someone maybe, if you think about it, if a coach, for example, like Italiano with no trophies won before, if he would come at Juve now, maybe he would think that I will have like a season where I can maybe win just Coppa Italia and they will be satisfied because the past 2 seasons they won nothing. So it would be maybe a bit of an easier environment to work on compared to maybe the environment that Pirlo found or Sarri found, with that Juve that won consecutive Scudetti, so they had to win. So for the next coach, I would say that it would be maybe a bit easier than those conditions, of course, but still the Juve job is always tough. And for me, I think this environment is one for a coach like maybe De Zerbi, Italiano, Tudor, someone with a light contract in terms of salary and everything, but a vision of play, of capability of improving players and everything. So
Yeah.
for me, names like Zidane or Tuchel or Nagelsmann, all of that, they are not the one for Juve right now.
Yeah, I would agree with that for sure. Lex, anything to add to that?
No, just that I agree. I think it's interesting to look at that side of it because, on one hand, with the extenuating circumstances going on with the points deduction and all of that, it could be maybe a daunting position to want to take up. But then on the other hand, expectations are definitely lower considering the points deduction, considering the place of the team, considering we haven't won trophies for 2 years. So I think that also makes it maybe more of an approachable position for a young coach that has less experience to want to take on that project. So, and I think that I've always said this too, been consistent with it, is that we have the squad, we have the next gen now, we have the players in our squad right now. So I think that it still is an enticing position for a coach to want to come and work with this group.
Yeah. Yeah. Is there a swap deal with Chelsea that could make sense with Vlahovic involved? They have so many players that they need to move. I would take 80 million and Koulibaly. 80 million, Koulibaly. Done deal for Vlahovic. Aziz?
No, 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 I wouldn't take anyone, to be honest. I think it's way tougher now to find a good striker than a good defender. And I think
80 million
we're,
and Koulibaly. Okay. Okay.
yeah, no, thank you.
No players. There's no players you involve off
No, no,
Chelsea's
not
roster.
really. I can't think of anyone. Maybe it's like, I think in terms of squad, we're not in that position where we're in desperate need to sacrifice someone to get another player. We just need some good fullbacks, and that's it. We're covered. We're not in that position where be
Yeah.
forced to do a swap deal or anything. We need to keep our stars because it's such a mess if you for example what happened last year, you have Dybala at the center of the project. 6 months later you buy Vlahovic and he's the center of the project, and then 1 year later you sell him and you buy a new player and go on and on and on. I think, yeah, we should keep Vlahovic definitely.
Yeah, I know, but I guess like for me, I think it could be too soon to move on from Vlahovic. However, I don't know. I have mixed feelings about him being that focal point in the project. I don't actually think he should be the focal point of the project, if I'm being flat out honest. So I don't want him to take off so soon, but I also am not sold that he's the guy we need to focus on. Let's have fun. Live chat, everybody. You can only lock 3 players in moving forward from this roster of Juventus. Who are the 3 you choose? Lex.
Oh wow. Off the top of my head. Okay. Um
You can only pick 3 players to lock in and move
okay.
forward with on this roster.
Fajoli. Um oh man. Vlahovic. And then like Chiesa and then with the side Illing. I just left off defenders, I know. I always go with attackers first. But yeah, probably those 3.
Aziz, who are the 3 you lock in with?
Let's take a player from each line. So let's take a Bremer, Fagioli, and Chiesa rather than Vlahovic, because Chiesa has already proved what he can do as a big game player, as a Juve player. So
So
I
for
feel Chiesa.
the center of a project, he's not in many's pick for 3, everybody. That's my point I'm trying to make. I
Yeah,
don't I don't I don't see it. I don't see it.
I forgot
I
about
mean,
Locatelli and Gatti.
It's very difficult because I would
It's
like
hard.
Gatti to be one of them, but in no
Yeah.
way, shape, or form do I think right now Bremer like is a lock. Fagioli and Locatelli, um, and Chiesa like, and if I had to drop one out of those, sadly it would probably be Loca. I'd probably be dropping Loca, and I'd probably say like Chiesa, Fagioli, Bremer would be like the 3 that I would lock into. But that is extremely tough when you're only trying to pick 3, because this is also a good sign. So during troubling times and, all this disarray and confusion and cases and whatnot, we have good pieces. Like you have Fagioli, you have a Moretti who I think would do wonders after a loan at the right team in Serie A. You've got Rovella that I think is more than ready to come back and be a part of this team next season. You've got some studs down below us in Houston, Yildiz, like Illing Jr., okay? I thought did a wonderful job in Sevilla in a game where people were flipping out about him starting when I thought he did a good job. So we have good pieces. We have to put it together and move forward properly. But it's not as bleak and as doomsday as it can feel with all the turmoil and everything. Like the actual talent is there. If we put it together and we groom it properly, in a few years, I think we could be deadly if we get it right now, though. We have to start getting it right, next season, putting them together and start getting Fagioli and Rovella together. I think Locatelli will be kind of that he's obviously older and whatnot, but he'll be kind of their the mentor almost in the midfield, the guy that can groom it. His work rate, his work ethic, him defensively is massive. The nice thing about those guys, all 3 of those guys for me can handle a 2-man pivot. okay? Fagioli, Luca, Rovella, Luca, they can all handle it. You've got attacking talent, whatnot, that we could mix in there. It can be really, really good. We can have a really, really strong team. At the back is where we need to focus, okay? In the midfield, I'm good. I think we have decent enough attacking talent. We might need some help there this summer, depending what happens. But it's all about characters for Juve. Getting the right characters to mix in. I think we have good talent, but now you got to mix in characters. Guys like Gatti, who we picked up out of nowhere from Frosinone, okay? Massive, and has the right mindset, okay? We need a couple more guys like that. And to be honest, I'll tell you right now, I think we're a little soft. And I would like to see us sign an asshole. Somebody nobody likes that will just get in the face of every opponent we face and just take all that attention, okay? We need an absolute asshole. Lichtsteiner used to be our asshole. Everybody hated playing against Juve when Lichtsteiner was out there on the pitch. Get me a goddamn another Lichtsteiner, all right? Now, we have a game today, everybody. Empoli, okay? Storm the barn. Get your Storm the Barn questions in. We're getting close here. We got to tackle Empoli. It is very easy for this team to shut down. And literally, like, it could be really easy for this team to just shut down and nothing actually happened. And good shout on, we already have Paredes for an asshole nobody likes. Good shout there, Alex. Oh, man. One that could at least get in there regularly and whatnot. And how fitting that Paredes over the past little bit while the season's dwindling starts to actually show that, you know, he could play and contribute and whatnot. Too little, too late, unfortunately, for Paredes. But Empoli today, they're expected to go 4-2-3-1 against us. They're going to be without De Winter and Baldanzi, as Baldanzi was called up for the Italy U20s and whatnot. And Piazza has been on Juve's books for 6 seasons, everybody. The gift that keeps on giving, he is not expected to be in there as well. Caputo will be leading the line, all right? So 4-2-3-1 from them. For Juventus, expected to be Perin, Gatti, Bremer, Sandro, Barbieri, Paredes, Locatelli, Kostic, Miretti, Milik, and Keane. They're calling it a 3-4-1-2. I would expect the same, but maybe, just maybe, a 3-4-1-2. Let's have some fun with this. Like we said, it could be very easy, especially if there are disgruntled players, whatnot, to shut down for these games, waiting for a point penalty that hasn't come just yet. Maybe that helps us in this game. But what do you expect out of this game, and what do you think the outcome's gonna be? Let's start with Aziz here.
Nothing, to be honest. No expectations. Like for me, with the Juve lineups, they make no difference. You can put anyone in there. It's all about the approach. You can start Vlahovic, Chiesa, and we still play badly. We'd still be defending. And sometimes you can have a lineup like this, and suddenly they would play those good 30 minutes and then go back to the same approach. So it's really tough to judge on the lineup. We have to see on the field, but judging again from all of our games, we have to suffer to win. So expecting to suffer, and not sure about the win, but hopefully.
Yeah. Lex, what are you expecting?
I think that the whole point situation, I think it kicks up our motivation a notch. I think, although it was already an important match for us, especially, regarding our fight, whether it's valid or not for a top 4 spot, I think that this whole points thing will give them an extra boost of motivation. At least I'm hoping so, kind of like it did originally when it first happened. And yeah, otherwise, you never know what to expect with these guys. It's like rolling the dice. So I'm curious to see how this one will go. The lineup's definitely interesting. So yeah.
Yeah, so Quadrado, Danilo suspended for this clash. Fagioli, unfortunate collarbone that he got that was broken, and he underwent surgery. 2 months he'll be out. Rabiot not 100% according to Max, and Vlahovic had a high temperature yesterday. So yeah, that's probably it. And just getting some changes in. Empoli, we'll go through it and see. I'll give you some key stats. Jeremiah thinking 3-0. Don't forget, everybody, all we need today is a clean sheet and a victory, and we're giving away that home kit that we continue to try to give away, but Juve just keeps missing the mark. I've taken the goals right out of the equation, okay? First it was 3 goals and a win, then it was 2 goals and a win. Scrap the goals. Just get a clean sheet and just win today, and we can give that kit away to a lucky subscriber, okay? So that's all we need. That's all we need. Juventus, they have won 10 of their last 11 against Empoli in all competitions. Juve have scored at least 2 goals in 8 of their last 10 away matches against Empoli in all competitions. Empoli have seen over 2.5 goals in their last 4 home matches against Juve in all competitions. Empoli have 1 victory in their last 19 with Juventus. And Empoli are unbeaten in their last 5 matches played on a Monday. What an obscure stat line there. So they're a Monday team, and here we go. So let's put it down to the predictions, everybody. Let's put some score lines to it. We saw Jeremiah drop in there with a 3-0 Juventus win. Let's have some fun and let's get some predictions here. Let's just go with final score and just take one tiebreaker for fun. So Aziz, what's your final score line, and give us one tiebreaker?
I think the stats sound too good, with the way we always score win against them, and they are unbeaten there. So I would go with a draw, maybe 1-1,
A
and the
1-1
tiebreaker,
draw. Okay.
yeah, and probably I don't know, maybe Perrin getting an injury and Max being forced to sub in Szczesny. That would be funny.
Jeez. All right. Lex, your final score line, one tiebreaker.
I'm gonna go with a 2-0 Juve win.
Okay.
Gonna break the Monday thing for them, and I think Miretti's gonna score.
Emiretti's going to score?
Yes.
All right. I'm going 2-0. 2-0. And I'm going to say one of our goals is a PK. All right. We are going to give away that kit. Okay. So we're giving that kit away. Today's going to be the match day. That
Make
seals
sure
the deal.
Milik doesn't take the penalty kick. That's it.
Yeah.
You don't want to see the prance again, eh? Didn't like the prance. So, Storm the Bard, we have some time. We're just going to try and rapid fire some of these questions. So, let's see what we got here. Jeremiah, thoughts? We've lost more money sticking to Max instead of sacking him, and we're going to keep losing more money. We should sack him. Well, I don't think you're going to get too many arguments out of this particular panel on this one, so it might not be much of a discussion. But all I'm going to say is this. And I'm not going to flat out say sack him because, and I know this is going to be unpopular or whatnot, but I really truly believe Juve fell off because of what was happening at the top. Get somebody in, let them look at what's going on behind closed doors and figure out the right course of action. Okay? So more importantly, before sacking, hire, okay? Hire a director, hire a management team, and let them make some decisions after assessing. So do that first. That's all I'm going to say on it. Lex, sack him?
Yes. Yeah, I
Aziz,
mentioned this. Yeah.
it's okay. I know.
No.
Of course.
We know. I think Aziz probably has the big game record memorized right now for Max Allegri 2.0.
There was a comment
Yeah.
someone asked in the comments.
I believe it was Dell's. Dell's is great in there in the chats there. So, if you could choose one signing or contract extension for next season, who do you choose? One signing or contract extension.
Give me a fullback, but I'm not sure who exactly right now. But desperately need maybe right back rather than left back because Cambiaso can return and be kind of good. But on the right side of things, we need the right back, a very
Yeah.
good one.
We come through minimal damage. We sell Vlahovic, 80 million, get Koulibaly, and then sign Marcus Thuram on a free. And then work around with the fullbacks. And we brought a center back in, and there'll be fullbacks in there. Lex, make your move.
Fullback. I'm gonna agree. I know it's the same, but anyone, someone, somebody so we can play back four. That's it. That's all I want. And keep Vlahovic for me.
All right, all right. If Inter went... No, I'm shutting this question down immediately. What the hell? On a Monday? You throw this at me? Swarit, what are we talking about? What? If Inter wins Champions League and Roma wins Europa League, we finish 5th in the league, we will still qualify. Yes. Yes, because if... Well, no, not necessarily. Yeah, actually, because if Roma's in one of those spots, you end up getting an extra spot because they would automatically qualify. So, yeah, that is kind of how it would work, barring any sanctions, and we know that they would keep us out. But yes, in theory, that's how it would work. Do you think it is best for Juve to stay out of European competition until we sort everything on and off the field, even if it hurts us financially, in order to start a new renaissance? I will say that the resources are crucial for Juve, and still competing in European competitions is big because you still get paid. Even us getting bounced in the Champions League in the group stages, we made 52 million out of it. So it's like there's still a benefit to playing in those competitions, and the resources are big for this team. Like when you're talking about rebuilding and everything like that, you still want those resources. So I'm going to say that I don't think it's best for us out of European competition. Lex, Aziz?
Agreed. And I
Yeah,
think to keep. Oh, go ahead. Go first.
yeah, I was gonna say agreed, but even aside from the finances, those extra games for this team, these young players that we want to develop and everything would be important to play on those games, in those stages, on those stadiums, like the big ones, like the Sevilla one, the all of that. It would be important.
Yeah. Lex?
Yeah, and then to keep and to attract high caliber talent, you want to be playing in Europe. But I think it's an interesting proposition to make, but I still think ultimately the benefits outweigh that side. So I think you want to stay in European competition.
Yeah. Yeah. I think we are down to another one. Probably the final one, unless some more drop in here, and it's going to be from Jeremiah. Rabiot's our MVP this season. Is he our MVP this season? Is there any debates about it? Oh, Aziz, who's our
Yeah.
MVP this season?
This is for Aziz.
It can be Chesney, it can be Fagioli, not Rabiot.
I don't know, man. I don't know. He's got the most goals on our team.
How many of them are in big games or in games that really matter?
But he's got the most. Who's got the
Yeah,
big game goals then?
not Rabiot.
Szczesny can't be our MVP. I don't think so. When you've got the majority of the season people wanting Perin, that tells me that is lack something. I would probably say he can't be considered for MVP if we wanted someone else in there. Fagioli's been a spark, but I don't think the MVP. I think he's been a spark, a big spark, but not the MVP. I think you could throw maybe some other guys in there, but Bremer's been a rock for us, but he's had some off games. So has Rabiot. Danilo's been great, and he's had some bad games too. Chiesa's not been solid enough. Di Maria's not been solid enough. Locatelli had a real slow start to the season. Has been great ever since he became a father. Much like myself, I've been fantastic since I became a dad. I don't know. I don't know, but Aziz says no to Rabiot. Okay, so he would choose like someone like Szczesny or Fagioli. Lex, who would you pick as the MVP?
Man, it's such a funny question. I mean, who would have thought that we would be discussing this about
Exactly.
Rabiot?
And to be honest, Raf is kind of right in the sense that it kind of says everything about the year if Rabiot is in fact amongst the mix. But I do give credit to him, to be honest. But and look at that. KB is throwing Locatelli as an MVP, and I think I'd have no problems with it. I don't understand the Locatelli hate, to be honest. I never have. But hey, to each their own on MVPs. Jeremiah, you might have a few with you on Rabiot. Aldo, please, let's not do this. Let's not get into the Rabiot Platini photos, okay? Michel Rabiot, come on. Take it easy. Take it easy. Everybody, season's coming down closer to an end. I want to remind you all, okay, you guys have been great in the live chat. Drop a like here. Okay, let's get those likes way up. It all helps the channel. I am going to be doing a watch along for the game today, just as the season's wrapping up. Hopefully we can maybe see some nice goals and whatnot. I'm more excited today just to give this kit away. So hopefully during the watch along we could celebrate that and getting the job done. Lex, absolute pleasure having you on. Aziz, my friend, let's make these a lot less far between appearances, okay? Everybody, check out Juve Canal. I'm sure you're following them on Twitter, doing fantastic stuff. Aziz, keep it up, all right? And keep stirring the pot, my friend, okay? You keep Twitter on fire and Twitter cooking there, okay? So keep doing your thing. Absolutely love it. Forza Juve sempre. Hey, fino alla fine, no matter what. We're not going anywhere, okay? We're ride or die, all right? So we'll see what happens. Let's see what happens in the game. Maybe I'll be along live long enough for the post-match to see if a penalty thing comes along immediately. Maybe we'll have to wait for tomorrow on the post-match podcast. But everybody, we'll see you in a few hours at game time. You guys in the live were fantastic. Talk to you very, very soon. Ciao tutti. If you don't join me for the watch along, I don't know what the hell you're doing, but enjoy the game one way or another, okay? Take it easy.
Yeah.